Exclusive with Chris Johnson.
Episode 8 with Jared Dines. This dude is super sweet, super funny, and really down to earth. Had a great talk with him about all the things that we talk about. Check out his music on the Players Pick podcast playlist on Spotify. And so I'll just do a little intro.
Okay.
It's Players Pick podcast, episode number 8 with Jared Dines. Everybody at this point, I think, knows who Jared Dines is. It's an interesting thing. I mentioned you a couple times on the way here, and there was like, fuck, dude, Jared Dines. I'm like, I know. And like, I just hung out with Steph Carpenter on the way here. And he's like, wait, Jared Dines with the 17 billion string guitar? And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's it. He's like, fuck, I want to go hang out with Jared Dines. I'm like, well, come to the show. So I'm cleaning I got to clean up the band rehearsal space. I'm like, all right, man.
Right.
That's cool. But, so everybody, you're like a cultural phenomenon all of a sudden, dude.
It's
like
weird, man. I don't know. It's weird. It's funny you say the 17 billion strings guy too, because like every person that I meet that brings up the guitar, the huge guitar, they always say a different number of strings. They're always like, it's that 15 string guitar, or it's that 20 string guitar, or it's that, but they never say the right one. I'm just like, did you watch the video? Like,
well, like anything past I think 9, I don't think we can count anymore. I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, it's ridiculous.
It's all insanity,
ridiculous.
Right?
But yeah, man, it's wild. It's been a crazy ride. Like I could not anticipate being where I'm at, and like I feel like I don't deserve it in a way, but it's just crazy. It's a crazy thing.
Well, so I just want to like catch up, because I saw that you basically filled in for Matt Heafy in Trivium. Like, how is that because of his baby came in?
Yeah, that was crazy, man. So I've known Matt for a little bit now, and they were going on the tour. He had hit me up probably a month before the tour, and he had said, hey, like, do you want to come out? Do you want to film some stuff and hang out with us and maybe like learn a few songs, and then I'll bring you out on stage and you can play like a song a night or something, And I was like, dude, hell yeah, like I would love to do that. I looked up the Trivium since I was 15 years old, so it was crazy. And so I said yes, and then we're on the tour, and I had known that his wife was pregnant, and I didn't realize how close the delivery date to the end of the tour was. She was due on the 5th, and the tour ended on the 3rd. Oh. And so it was like he was kind of stressing about that, rightfully so. And he was like, yeah, there might be a possibility that I have to go home and be with my wife, which is like, yeah, of course, go home and be with your wife. And and he was like, would you be down to fill in on guitar for me in my place? And I was like, I guess, like, I didn't want to let him down, It's just like, he's a good homie, and I've looked up to him for so long. It was just like, I have to like do this, regardless of how little sleep I get learning these songs or whatever it is, like I have to do it. So I said yes, and then he like got a phone call, and the doctor was like, yeah, you should really come home. Like it could be any day now. And so he had to leave. And then I didn't sleep for like 2 days learning a lot of these songs. And
how many did you?
They had a 16 song set.
Damn.
Yeah. And some of them I had known from just being a fan of Trivium for a while and learning these songs. And a lot of them I was just listening to over and over again, and I had like the tabs out, and Matt had made some footage for me to like watch what he does, so that really helped too. And I just spent all this time just learning these songs. And I think when I first got up on stage for the first night where I was filling in for him, I don't think I moved for like 5 songs from my like planted foot position. Yeah, exactly. I was just like staring at my guitar and like, don't fuck up, don't mess up or whatever.
Oh, man.
And it was crazy though. Like, they're the nicest dudes. Their crew was so awesome to work with.
A cool group of people.
It was crazy. And Matt's just such a nice guy, and the whole band, it was such a cool experience. And for them to like bring me into that as, just this kid who, plays guitar and makes videos it was crazy. Like you could be doing completely separate things in the industry, but they still they can still connect.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to be a touring band to hang out with a touring band, you just gotta be like, doing something that other people can look at and be like, oh hey, you know, I like I like this guy, let's get him out, you know, let's do something. So it was cool. It was crazy.
It's so sick that you guys connected, and then like he feels that trustworthy. He feels that trust in you to do that, to have that connection with somebody that has inspired you from like early on. Huge, right?
Right.
I had my own little version of that when years ago. It's probably like in 2011. I became friends with Devin Townsend.
Oh, nice.
and made a guitar for him, and he was like, oh well, like, you know, one of these days I'll repay you somehow. I'm like, no, dude, like, come on, the fact that we're friends.
Yeah.
Please don't.
Like, you're a legend, bro.
Don't try to repay me.
Yeah,
Just
exactly.
don't. And then like it was like clockwork. I'm moving from Seattle back to California, and he's like, hey, we're gonna do this big thing in London. I want you to play second guitar on the Ghost record, like the live Ghost record. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I'm okay at acoustic guitar, but I play heavy. He's like, yeah, I know, but I think it's cool.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to play the acoustic thing. And he has this other buddy, Mark Tremino, who's more of like a middle of the road, like rock guitar player. And he's like, I'm gonna make him play the metal shit.
Oh, nice.
You know, and I'm like, oh, dude, you're fucking both of us. It's awesome.
Yeah.
And so we ended up, you know, it's like kind of the same thing. I was in the middle of moving, and all of a sudden I was like, okay, I'm not gonna sleep a whole lot to try to learn his stuff, and I'm not really that guy that learns covers and like figures it out.
Sure.
So I did my best, and was frozen. Like, don't fuck up. Oh fuck, I fucked up. Don't fuck up. Don't fuck up.
Yeah.
Okay, hopefully they fixed that. Hope you guys didn't hear that. Okay, fuck.
Right.
You know, the whole thing, but super life-changing experience.
Dude, it was like, and yeah, it's crazy. Like, you know, you're doing completely different styles or so. Like, but it's just, it works, you know. And it was like, they all run in-ears live, and that was the worst thing for me, more so than the audience, I guess, is that every time I fucked up, they had it right in their ear. Dude. They heard everything, and like, that's what I was like, please do not mess up. Like, if I hit a wrong note, it's like, if the fans hear a wrong note, it's like, I don't want to do it, but it's like, okay, you know, it might get lost in like the craziness of the crowd, right? But they hear everything, and I was I was like, please don't mess up for the sake of like the band hearing everything I'm doing. Please play it right.
Dude, this is the same thing. I mean, I'd never done in-ears before, and here I'm on stage with Devin Townsend. And I pretty much said, don't put me in his ear. It's like probably better you don't put me in his ears, because I don't want to fuck him up. Like, put all his cues in my ears
right.
so that I can hear all that shit.
Yeah.
But please, god damn, you know, like, don't.
I don't want him to hate me by the time this is over, please.
He did have me out before he released the record. He's like, hey buddy, so this one track, Texada, you know, like, it's the really heavy arpeggiation one, like, can you redo that? I'm going to send you the things. And I'm like, I'll totally redo it. I'll sit here till I get it right. And he's like, that's fine. You just give me one good guitar track that one was really tough live. I'm like, that was the one. That was the one. Okay.
Yeah.
But well, congratulations on that. How many shows did you do?
I did, I believe, 9 shows. It was 8 or 9 shows.
And you're doing vocals too?
No. So Howard Jones.
Damn.
Current Light the Torch, and then ex Killswitch. Yeah, I met Howard Jones. Like, that was insane for me. I was just I was trying the hardest not to fanboy, because Killswitch is like in my top 3 bands. Dude. And he is the sweetest guy, and he's the most chill, humble dude I've ever met. Like,
man,
he literally lives in the mountains, and he just hangs out, and he's the coolest dude. I don't know. He was so humble. He was so nice. And yeah, Howard Jones filled in for probably 6 or 7 songs. And then Johannes from Avatar filled in for vocals as well.
Wow.
Initially, Matt was like, do you think you could do a few songs? And I was like, Matt, not all of us are like you. Like not everybody can play these riffs and sing at the same time. You're a freak. Like,
he is a bit of a freak.
I am
have to admit.
Yeah, he's insanely talented. And I was like, dude, just the guitar alone, I'm gonna be so stressed out about. But you know, it was so cool, because there's just such a cool group of dudes. Like Johannes and Howard, they stepped up, and Paolo stepped up, and he took like a lot of the lead vocals for the songs that Howard and Johannes weren't on. Corey did like a couple songs all by himself with just screaming vocals, and he completely killed it. He's such a phenomenal musician, and yeah, it was crazy.
I can only imagine, as fans of that style of music anyway, they're all stoked to see you, stoked to probably see Howard, and the whole shake-up, you know, even though they want to see Matt, but
right,
you know,
dude, it was crazy, man. Like, I was even when he was saying that, oh, we'll bring you out for a song, you can play with us live for a song, I was like, I feel like nobody's gonna know who I am, and it's gonna be awkward. I feel like he's gonna be like, oh yeah, let's get our buddy Jared out here to play a song with us, and then I'm gonna walk out and people are gonna be like, who the fuck is that? But it was crazy that like most of them just erupted when I came out on stage,
dug it.
and it was like, I did not expect this at all. Like I was just like, I'm just gonna go out there and humbly just stand there and play some songs like I'm fucking playing with Jerry M. But like the audience, they thought it was like the coolest thing, and that was so cool, like to see like metal fans just be so accepting,
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, their fans are top notch. It's awesome.
Well, congratulations on that life achievement.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, that's
thank
like
you. I can die now. Yeah,
like that's how I felt with the Devin thing. I was like, okay, like if I die on the plane ride home, I get why.
Yeah,
because that was the thing.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah, well, that's cool. That's awesome. Well, I will. I appreciate catching up in that respect. I'll jump into the main question that I like to ask everybody, because this is Players Pick Podcast.
Yeah, dude.
Is I'm always interested in the pick origin stories. Like, where was your first pick? Like, who gave it to you? And can you take us through like, if you remember what it was or what style or what color, any of that stuff, and then the picks that you've gone through to get to where you're at now.
Yeah, I remember it. So when I was really young, 13 is when I got my first guitar. And I initially wanted to play drums, actually, but I didn't have enough money for it. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to play music, and my father actually had a buddy at work, and he gave me these mixed CDs, and one had a Van Halen on it, and I was listening to like Eruption, and Panama, and Ice Cream Man, all these songs, and I was like, I want to do that, and so then I was like, I'm just gonna get a guitar, and so my parents were like, yeah, okay. They took me to Ted Brown Music, and they signed me up they got me a guitar, and they signed me up with lessons from this guy named Chris Lund, and I remember he told me to get a couple of these books. They were like beginner books to like learn how to play, and it was all finger picking stuff. He wanted me to learn finger picking. And so I was like, okay, cool. I hadn't really ever I didn't know anything about guitar, so I didn't know like how you're supposed to play. And he's like, well, let's get you down with some finger stuff first. And so I started like playing these just, like Kumbaya, just learning like sheet music and stuff like that. And then as we went through this book, at the very end of the book, there was this last song, and then I played the song, and then I remember he gave me a pick, and it was the gray felted, the Dunlop pick.
The gray nylon?
Yeah, the gray nylon pick.
Okay.
And that was like the first pick I ever got, and I remember it because it was like a graduation gift.
Oh.
Because he was like, I want you to learn the basics with your fingers, and then when we get through this book, then we'll start using picks. So I was like, okay. So like when we got through that entire book, he gave me the pick, and then we started getting to more like rock, blues, and pentatonics. I'd bring CDs of songs in, and he would like listen to it and show me how to play it, stuff like that. He was super cool. But that was the first pick I ever got, and then for so long, that's just what I used. And I used, I believe it was the 60.
The real thin?
The real thin, yeah, 60 millimeter ones. And I used that for a while, and then they were a little too thin. And then I went up to the 88. Or the 88. And I used those probably for 5 or 10 years. Was just those picks. Wow. And then everything else felt really weird in my hands, And yeah, so that was my first pick story, and it was just so cool because it was like a graduation for me. It was like did it, you got through the book, you learned the basics, so here's your pick. Let's start being a rock star, let's start doing it.
It's cool that you didn't actually necessarily know that was coming.
No, not
because
at all.
just like, okay, I guess to learn this instrument, my fingers are gonna that's where I have to start.
Right,
and that's cool that you had that head down mentality, and you weren't. Because in some ways, I would think, like, a lot of kids, I've heard the story that were like, oh, my dad made me start acoustic.
Yeah.
And all I was dreaming about was Van Halen.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even think about it. I wanted to play Iron Maiden.
Yeah.
And I wanted electric guitar, but I had to learn some stuff on the acoustic. But it sounds like you were kind of like just totally submitted to that process.
It was very much, I wanted to be Van Halen, but I was just like aggravatingly patiently waiting to like get through this like first basic stuff, because I was like, okay, if I'm gonna devote my time to this, I'm gonna learn how to play guitar, I should at least listen to this guy who's been playing for 30 years and like get some basics down. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna be playing Kumbaya, I'll do it with my fingers, I'll do it, but I want to play Van Halen, you know. And then like once I got through the book, he's like, okay, now we can start doing like the pentatonic stuff, and you can learn how to like scales and play all this stuff. And I was like, yes. So you know, I still had that mentality of like I want to do it, but I was like, I know I need to like learn the basics.
Right.
So
well, that kudos to you for doing that. I'm always, I'm like opposite. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like I want to play. Like a lot of players, a lot of kids will pick up their stuff and they're like, I just want to shred really fast and like try to like emulate the sound and so I would always like play with this game of trying to skip ahead, and realize that wasn't going to work. And every teacher that I ever came across, like, you have to slow down. Yeah. You have to actually go back to the basics. You have to learn up, down, up, down. You gotta have the knowledge.
And I found that also crossed into like the gear aspect of it, because I would listen to these songs and I would hear their guitar tone, and then, you know, I didn't have any money, you know, as a kid, and my parents didn't have a bunch of money, and so I had like really cheap amps, and I was like, it just doesn't sound right. Like, how do I get that really like devastating tone, you know? How do I get that sound? And I would just like try and figure it out, and it's just learning about like, oh, well, you need this type of product to get that sound, you know. You need to learn about your instrument and the stuff that comes with your instrument, so you can get that type of quality sound that you're looking for, you know. And I don't know, for me it was very important to learn all that stuff. And yeah, what
was your first guitar?
My first guitar was just a Fender Squier like starter pack. You know, $100, came with the worst case you've ever seen, and like a little 10-watt amplifier.
You still have it?
I don't. I wish I did.
What'd you do with it?
I gave it away to a friend of mine.
Oh, that's cool though.
Yeah, I gave it away to a friend, and I don't think they have it anymore, but he wanted to learn guitar, so I gave it to him. My first actual guitar was Ibanez SZ 520.
Oh, sick.
And it was my father had actually said, he's a huge classic rock fan, and one of his favorite bands is Fleetwood Mac. And we had it was a live concert of, I don't remember what it was called. It was like The Chain or something. But it was a live concert of Fleetwood Mac, and during that performance, Lindsey Buckingham plays a live version of Big Love on the acoustic, and it's all finger picked, and he sings at the same time and stuff, and my dad just loved that song. And so he said, if you can learn this song just on guitar, I didn't have to sing it, he just said, learn this song on guitar and play it for me, I'll get you your first actual guitar. And so I was like, okay. So I spent probably 4 to 6 months trying to, because it was a hard song to play. Dude. You know, it's very technical, and I didn't quite get it perfectly, but I played it through, maybe a couple slip ups, and I played it for my dad. I was like, I'm ready. I got this. I'm ready for it. I've learned the song. Let me show you. And he's like, okay. And it was an event. Like he was like, okay, let me go to the bathroom first, and then I'll sit down on the couch. I'll get your mother. We'll sit down, and you can play that for me. So then they sit down, and I'm just like, I feel like it was my first concert. You know, I'm just like performing for my parents. And so I played through the song, and then I finished it, and my dad just kind of goes, yeah, that was pretty good. That was pretty good.
Oh, man.
It was pretty good. He's like, well, let's go to Guitar Center this weekend. And I was just like, yes! So I went to Guitar Center, and they had that guitar. And I think it was just the look of it, you know. It was like the carnal, like, oh, that looks nice, you know. That's an attractive guitar. And I played it for a little bit, and, you know, it was like $350, you know, it wasn't that much money. So my dad was like, yeah, get a guitar, you know, keep it under like $400 or $500, obviously, you know. And so that was my first guitar, the Ibanez SC 520, and then I did like a pickup swap in it a couple years later, and I still have that guitar.
What'd you put? What was the pickup swap?
It was the EMG 8185s.
Sick.
Yeah.
That was like my first pickup swap. Too.
Yeah.
Like, cause like as soon as I learned about Zakk Wylde and Metallica, it was
Zakk
over
Wylde.
with for me.
I had a Guitar World magazine, and I was looking through it, and he was talking about like Zakk Wylde and like what he plays, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, check out the EMGs, and I was like, yeah, I'm down, let's do it. You know, he has a killer tone, and it made a huge difference in the guitar for sure. But I still have that one. I'm never getting rid of that one.
That's awesome, because that's the one you like chose. Yeah, it's like your guitar. Yeah,
exactly, and that has like the, you know, the sentimental value, and it's gone through some shit.
Yeah.
Like, I've done so much damage to that guitar. I'm surprised it still works, but
Oh, that's
yeah,
cool, though.
that was my first one.
And so, are you still playing the same Gray 88 picks now?
So
What are you playing now?
So yeah, it's either or. So I have 2 picks that I go to. It depends. The 88s I use for a lot of like the more rhythm playing because they just feel right. I mean, I grew up playing them.
Stiff enough to get the
you know, it's
chug,
flimsy enough to not like battle me when I'm trying to do like chugs and like a lot of chord stuff. It kind of just rolls through the strings really nice, at least for me. And so that's what I usually use for rhythm. For leads, I'm using the Ernie Ball Prodigies.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're like a new pick, and they're like the 1.5 millimeter.
So you have them on stage so that you can kind of grab them or on the guitar? How do you...
When I record stuff, I'll do the rhythm with like the 88s because it just feels right. And then when it comes to the lead, I like a thicker pick.
Yep.
And those are just kind of what I have at my disposal right now, so I use those. Yeah.
Sick.
So I'm still using them. It's between the two.
I brought you some pick samples. We're sitting in the van. For the people listening, we're sitting in the van outside of the boardwalk in Sacramento, and it's dark in here. So I didn't bring, but I brought you some pick samples of the new Flow picks and stuff like that. But I'll show that stuff to you later.
Awesome. Yeah.
But we also make we have a few different like fat picks that are really interesting.
Nice.
Like anyway, discussion for off the record, I guess.
Sure.
Cool. So it's Prodigy, the Ernie Ball Prodigy for like the lead stuff, and that's kind of a Jazz 3 derivative.
It is,
right? But it's got special angles or special like bevels on it or something.
Yeah, it's beveled for sure.
Yeah, that's cool. And then so I guess really the next part of my little quest when talking to people that I dig and they're doing cool things in the world is I'm always interested in like what keeps you motivated? What keeps you going? And is there like, do you have any rules to live by? Like, you know, or is it just kind of like, you know, like, I don't know, like it's this and this, or
rules? I would say try not to repeat the same mistakes. You know, if I do something that I realize wasn't a good thing to do, I just try and learn from that. You know, like just letting other people dictate what you do. You know, when I was first starting out, it was kind of a big thing for me where a lot, you know, you kind of do stuff in your own community and then they accept it for what it is. Like, oh, yeah, that's great. You know, it's awesome. And then you kind of get out into a bigger audience and you start getting different feedback and a lot of negative feedback.
Sure. And
people telling you like, oh, you shouldn't do that. Like, you should do this, or, oh, you know, like, or, you know, just negativity in general, whatever it is. And it's a difference between negativity and criticism for sure. But I realized that at one point I tried to do things that was kind of pandering, that was kind of like, oh, I think this is what they want, so I'll do this.
Oh, right.
Which doesn't work.
No.
You know, because they know, you know, and so I think learning to do like what I want to do was huge for me. At the beginning, and learning how to do that.
Kind of having the courage to like step out in front and say, no, this is what I want to do. I'm not gonna.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. And then what was the second part of the question?
Well, just like what keeps you motivated and inspired, I guess, you know?
Honestly, a lot of it is... That's a tough question. Reaching other people is a big one for me, and that was the reason why I started doing what I started to do, was just to kind of make somebody laugh or make something that someone could relate to, you know, and that was huge for me. So I guess I would say like the fans are a big part of it. The people who watch my videos, who listen to my music, I mean, they motivate me for sure. And just wanting to like do something that they appreciate, wanting to give back a little bit, whether it's to just make somebody laugh, you know, like if they're having a bad day or if they're at a rough spot in their life or something, and it's like, oh, I watch your videos and it makes me feel better for 5 minutes, you know, and that's such a small thing to do, but it's something that if I can do that for somebody else and do something bigger than myself, like that's really big for me, and that's a huge motivator. So like when I'm feeling down or like not creative or not, you know, motivated to do stuff, I try to think like, you know, you can you can do stuff that you love to do, you know, because I love music and I love playing music, and I've always done stuff related to music, whether it's recording bands, playing live shows, doing the YouTube videos, and it's like you can do stuff that helps other people, and that's a huge thing for me too. And then just the motivation of, you know, staying alive, really. It's like, you know, I'm in this position now where it's like, it's kind of sink or swim. You know, you either do what you love to do and you make it work, or you don't and you have to go work a 9 to 5 or something, which I don't want to do ever again. You know, I had some really obnoxious jobs when I was younger, before this whole like YouTube thing kind of took off, I guess. But just that also in the back of my head, that's like, anytime that I'm having a bad day, I try to remind myself it could be so much worse. Like, you're playing music, you're making people laugh, you're doing something that you enjoy, and you have an audience that also enjoys it. And any problem that I have, or any complaint that I have, compared to like any other type of job out there, is just like, why am I feeling like why am I complaining about this? You know, like, I shouldn't be. Like, this is just stupid. And I try to just remind myself of that. So that's motivating too, to just do something that I love and
get some perspective on the contrast.
Exactly. Like, you know, just stay afloat. And it is weird a little bit to take something that you love and then do it as a job.
Commodify it, yeah.
Exactly, because then it's not 100% creative. It's not 100% inspired all the time. It's like, okay, I love doing this, but I need to take a few weeks off, or I need to take a month off, you know? Like, bands will write an album a year, an album every 2 years, you know? If you're Tool, an album every 10 years.
Every decade.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like,
if you're lucky.
Yeah, you have that creative leeway. When it becomes your job of like day-to-day filming and content creation, you have to kind of leverage what you want to do. Like, I still do what I want to do, but some days I don't feel that motivated, and it's like, man, like, this is tough, because I'm still doing what I love to do, but it's also now paying my bills.
Right. So
it's like, I don't want to let my fans down. I need to still pay my bills, but I feel like I just need some time, you know, to kind of like get that creative juice back.
This is a good juicy part of this whole thing, because I was going to ask, like, there's so many aspects of where you're at now that it's like they say, you know, more money, more problems, or you get more fans, you got more haters, you know, and the whole thing like doubles and triples and magnifies to a point where it's not like it's not like you're not allowed to have a bad day, but you're still gonna have bad day. You're a human being, right? And so, but what you're expressing to me about, like, well, I have bad days still, like, even though things are the best they've ever been, so to speak, you know, like, and I identify with that in my own way. Like, life is good, but like, I still have to unplug. I still have to go for me, it's the ocean and with my dog, like, and doing yoga. Like, it's like, if I can get into those things, I can get back to work.
You need something.
Yeah,
you need something.
Like, when you take breaks, like, what is that like for you? Like,
it's even sometimes when I take breaks, I'm still working. It's just not in the public eye. You know, like the first time, I remember back in, I think it was 2015, maybe 2016, I had made a video that said I need to take time off. You know, and I took probably 2 months, I believe, 2 or 3 months off. But during those 2 or 3 months, I wrote 2 albums.
Whoa.
And I was still working, and when I came back, that's what I came back with. But I needed to just kind of
take the pressure off.
Exactly. I needed to like step away from the public eye every day and just kind of be like, I'm just not in a good spot. Like, I don't feel creative, I don't feel funny, I don't feel motivated, and I need to do something that I feel motivated to do. And at that time, the release was music, like actual music.
That's cool.
And so that's kind of how, like, I try to do it. So, and music is so versatile. It's cool that you can do something like that, where you can make a video, or you can do videos for like 6 months, and you can make music with videos. But then if you get tired of that, you can stop doing that and then make an album, or you can just do something else, like completely different with music, record some bands, you know, whatever you feel motivated to do. And my my passion has always been music in one way or another. Before I got into YouTube, I was doing the band thing. I've been doing the band thing for 15 years. You know, playing shows, going to shows, trying to make my band bigger, you know, stuff like that. And then I started recording bands, and then I started making the videos, and I still always just have like a really soft spot for anything musical. And that's kind of the cool thing, is it's so versatile. If you're burnt out doing one thing with music, you can usually just do something else with music that isn't the same, and you're more motivated to do that at the time. So I try and kind of go in the direction that I'm feeling with music. Like after this tour, I'm feeling like it might be time to do another solo album. You know, go home and just kind of bury myself in the computer and in the recording studio, and just kind of whip out another project maybe, and then get back into the videos or something. You know. Yeah,
it sounds like it's interesting to hear you have like a cyclical nature of music that you kind of just keep cutting up and going, well, I'm you know, not feeling this right now, so I'll move over to doing this or that, mixing it up. Whereas like I find for myself and oftentimes other people, it's like they're like, oh, the music thing, because they only engage, I don't want to say not everybody, but a lot of people only engage their music in one or two ways.
Sure.
You know, and so that this other aspect of life has to happen.
Yeah.
They have to go on a trip to, you know, the Bahamas or something like that to reset, where they don't do anything musical.
Right.
So that they can come back to the way that they engage music.
And that's why I hated doing 9-to-5s, because you do the same thing every day. You can't escape it. It's the same thing. At least with music, you have the flexibility to either write an album, play a live show, do a video, do a music video, do something, record a band, you know, pick up the drums, you know, do something else, like do anything. You have so many different options in music, whereas like a normal 9-to-5, you go to your desk and you do the same thing every day. And that's you know, I was terrible in school. You know, I barely made it through school and graduated with like C- the
Probably
entire
felt like
time.
prison.
Oh yeah, I hated it. I was a kid who sat in school and just stared out the window and just daydreamed, didn't hear a thing that anyone was saying. And I was just like, I just want to play my guitar. I just want to go home and play my guitar. And I didn't know why, but that's where my heart was, that's where my passion was. And I wanted to listen to music, I wanted to play music, and that was it. You know, it's so, and it never stops growing. You can never be fulfilled with music, because it's always changing, and you can always get better. You can always be a better guitarist, you can always be a better drummer, vocalist, whatever. It's always adapting, and there's always new styles, and it's just this never-ending thing that you can constantly get fulfillment from, that never just gets old and repetitive, you know.
That's quite the awesome statement, like, and from you, because again, you're a powerhouse of creating content and creating music, and that you take 2 months off and write 2 records, you know, like most of us like lay people like myself, like we make a record every couple of years or whatever, like but it depends on the time you have dedicated to it, right? It depends on the things that are at your disposal, and some people figure it out and are able to like muster it together. I remember back in the day living in Seattle, like it took us better part of 2 years to save up $10,000 as a band, like to buy the studio time. And then after the first album, like we start to put it out, and we're like, well, we should have click tracked it. We didn't do that. All these little things. We spend our money at the time it's over with. We're mixing, and we're just like, okay, so maybe next time, 2 years from now, we're gonna do it better. You know, like
you're
already
constantly learning.
Yeah. So it's a strange thing, but like you're at a heightened state now, which is a cool thing. You can turn it around and just keep moving.
I think the hardest part is just trying to remind myself that I need to do what I feel inspired to do. Yeah. You know, even if you have millions of people watching, like, don't let that hinder your creativity and what you really want to put out into the world. And it's easy to get kind of caught up in that. You know, you think, oh, this is going to get a lot of views, so I should do this.
Right.
It's like, is that where your heart's at, though?
Yeah.
Like, should you really do that? Like, do what inspires you and do what you want to do. And I feel like people can see that. You know, they're smart.
100%.
You know, they can see. I've done videos where, you know, I feel down, but I put on the face, you know, and I'm like all happy and jolly, making silly jokes and stuff. But in the comments, people are like, "Are you okay? Like, are you doing all right?" And I would have never have guessed anyone could notice that, but they do. Like, they can pick up on that, you know? And it's like, just be real with people, you know, and be real with yourself, and just do what you're inspired to do, what you're feeling. And if you're not feeling it, you know, just focus your energy on something else.
Yeah, it makes me think. I don't know if you ever heard of Joseph Campbell, but he was the guy that kind of coined the term "follow your bliss."
Yeah,
like that kind of, you know, follow your heart, so to speak, in that sense. And if you know, it may not be. All right, and this other, I forget, was one of the yoga teachers that I went to. He's like, be willing to be bad at something for a while. Yeah. Just like, but do the thing choose the thing that you want to do, and be willing to be not that great at it at first, right? Yeah. And then just keep following that, and because obviously, even if you didn't land at the place that you're at now, if you continue to follow your heart, and you were just on this tour right now, and the YouTube thing wasn't a thing, but you're on the road with your friends, playing your heart out, doing music that you want to do, at least that's its own reward. Right. And you're going to make a little cash, you're going to have a good time, you're going to have the experience. And that's what I think that, you know, ultimately, if you even get that far, man, you've kind of made it, you know, in a way. Like, it doesn't really matter. But, you know, if you follow your heart and then, like, it blows up and you actually get to continue to do what you want to do. I mean,
I came to a point about a year and a half ago where I realized that quality of life was much more important than just making money. And like I don't know, I was always so focused on I need to make money, I need to have a good savings account, I need to be like not rich, but I need to be like well off, I need to be like financially stable. And then once I got to a point where I was like, okay, like I could continue to make X amount of money and still deal with everything on my own, or I could focus more on quality of life and like hire a manager, you know, which I've done. Tony,
he's great.
My manager Tony, like, he takes care of so much stuff for me, and I pay him for what he does, and it's like I could be saving that money, sure, but my quality of life is so much better because I can do things that I, you know, want to focus on, and I don't have to really stress about everything that comes along with it, and kind of, you know, help him out and stuff like that, and just kind of focus on the quality of life and not so much the money aspect of it. I feel like that's such a strong thing just in the world in general, but it's such a controlling thing. And once you kind of get to a point where it's like, I could have more money, I could have a bigger house, I could have a better car, I could have 20 more guitars. Do I need it? No, I don't. Like, what do I need in my life? I need happiness. I need, you know, to be content with where I'm at and what I'm doing. And I felt like that was just what I needed to do, was to focus on the quality of life. And since I've done that, it's been such a drastic change, you know. And you find that when you stop focusing on making every single dollar that you possibly can, you start giving more, because you can kind of step back from that and be like, I'm fine, like, you know, I'm good, I can pay my bills, I can eat, I'm good, you know, like, I don't need all this crazy stuff. And then when you have like people around you that might need stuff, you can, like, there's people in this band that I see that they can't really even afford to have good meals because they don't have much money. And it's like, man, I was there. Like, I've been there for most of my life, you know, doing the grind and having no money. And it's like, I see that, and it's like, I've gotten out of the mindset of like just being like, you know, having the most money that I possibly can, and kind of like giving back to people. And when you do that, you'll find that those people start to give to you in the ways that they can, you know, whether it's like friendship or emotional, and not saying you're gonna buy their friendship, but it's like when you start giving to people, like, you'll find so much gratification from that that you may not even realize. It's so much more than just like having everything to yourself. Like, there's so much more to life than just like having everything to yourself. And it's so important to give back to people, and then just focus on like happiness and the quality of your life, and just like let the other stuff go and just be happy at where you are, you know. And that's something that I kind of came to like a year and a half ago. And
What a great realization, man.
Yeah, it changed my life, honestly. Like,
I mean, well, it makes all the sense in the world, because, I mean, you can have everything that you've ever wanted, and you can hoard it all and be stoked on it for 5.5 minutes, and then you're like, where is everybody? Like, it's better when you guys want to come over? Like, you guys want to do, let's, like, write a record, or, like,
Right.
let's do something with all this stuff.
Right.
If you don't have anybody to share it with,
right.
then that's a lonely place to be, right?
Yeah.
And, like, and when we invest in our friendships and invest
Yeah.
in relationships where we see people struggling,
Right.
I mean, that is a good feeling, and that's a reward in itself.
Absolutely.
That's kind of what I hear you saying.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely.
That's cool.
It's a cool thing to be able to do, and that's another thing that motivates me too. Is just like giving back, you know, because like I wasn't a rich kid. My parents, they were very poor middle class, you know, like it was never like that. So I've lived that life, you know. I didn't move out until I was like 20, 21, you know, but for 20 years of my life was that, you know. So like that's where I came from, and you know, you kind of never forget that, you know, even if you kind of go on to do like really cool stuff. It's like I always have, like, I don't know, a soft spot in my heart for that kind of stuff, because that's, you know, it's just how life is.
You lived it, yeah.
I lived it,
and
you
you
know?
have this contrast in your present moment to always see the big, how big the difference can be, right? Yeah. So.
But I am like, I'm no more happier now than I was back then. You know, like my happiness, like, honestly, like, until I started, like, because when I started getting more money, it was like, oh my god, like, I'm getting more money, you're like, sweet.
Adrenaline rush, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. But then once I started to kind of focus on the quality of it and figure out how to, like, focus on my happiness, like, the happiness I feel now is the same happiness I felt when I was 16, 17, 18.
Because you're doing what you love, man.
Because I'm doing what I'm, exactly.
Like,
I'm doing what I love, and, like, I'm focusing on, like, what, I don't know, like, I guess what I feel that matters the most, and trying not to be, like, selfish about it, and, like, just, oh, I need status, and I need money, and I need all this stuff. It's like, that's not what life is about, you know, and that's just something that I've come to kind of understand within myself, you know, and not dogging on people who want to hustle. Like, if you want to hustle and make a bunch of money, like, if that makes you happy, go for it, man. Like, do what you want to do. But just in my life, like, with my upbringing, like, my parents, it was just like, stay true to the people that are true to you, and like give back to people who don't have anything to give, you know. And that's where I kind of realized the happiness and in my life, and like the motivation that kind of helps me is just like, you know, I don't know.
I think, well, it sounds like, I mean, you've definitely hustled. Like, that's the thing. See, and I think that you've had to kind of bite off a piece of that, and you've definitely hustled. You've definitely worked hard. It's not like you just woke up one day and you were all of a sudden this. It's not. You had to refine in the craft of what you're up to, and find and experiment with doing something that's a little out of line, like not really my favorite thing. Not really. I just thought I don't know. Okay, I'm back towards the center.
Sure.
Okay. Oh yeah, over to the side. Yeah. And then here you are, and you're like, okay, I hustled hard, but okay, I found that the happiness isn't necessarily in the hustle, or the end product is not the hustle, and you can't accumulate more stuff. You know, that's not gonna like bring happiness.
Exactly. Like, even with the Trivium thing, like, my joy from doing all that stuff didn't come necessarily from the fact that I was playing in front of those audiences. It was the fact that when I got off stage, Matt would text me and say, dude, you killed it. That was where I was like,
it's the relationship.
Exactly. It's like, I made him proud, and I did something that, like, that made him happy, and I was there for him, and I did something for him, and like the band and everybody, and it was, you know, something that the fans experienced, of course, but for me it was like, it had nothing to do with the fact, like, obviously it was so cool to play in front of all those people. It was such an amazing experience, but my happiness I felt more joy when I would, like, go backstage, and then the band would be like, dude, you killed it. Or, like, Matt would text me and be like, dude, I was watching on my Twitch, like, I'm so happy, like, thank you for doing this for me and my family. It's like, man, like, that's what hits my heart, you know, like, that's why I said yes. I would never do that for any other band, like, you know, because, like, me and Matt have got like gotten like close and stuff like that. But if someone I didn't know was like, hey, come fill in, I'd be like, no. Like I'm not really about that. But like, because like we have that like relationship, and it's like I'm helping one of my brothers out. You know, I'm helping him out. I'm doing him like a favor, you know. And
he's just one of the most genuine, awesome, down-to-earth guys
for sure
in the whole metal community.
Yeah,
so
he really is. He's a sweetheart.
I can see any multitude of fans or friends wanting to help him out if they could.
Oh yeah, he's such a nice guy. Such a nice guy. I remember like even when I first met him for the first time in person, and I played with them at Soundcheck. I did 2 songs with him, and he gave me one of his guitars, and I had no idea he was going to do that.
What?
And I was just like, Matt, why are you doing this? I'm just a kid on YouTube. Like, what are you doing? And he's like, no, like we love what you do, and we appreciate what you do. You make people laugh or whatever, and it's like that's really cool, and you're positive. And
sees
it's
your
like,
value, and wants to invest in you.
He sees something in me that I never thought of, you know, which is like so cool. And yeah, he's a sweetheart. But you know, that's where I find like a lot of my joy, a lot of my motivation is just like doing stuff that helps other people, I guess, whether it's like the Matt thing, helping him in his situation, or the band, or like just making somebody laugh, or teaching someone a cool trick on a guitar. Like I remember when I was trying to figure out how to do cool sounds and cool noises on a guitar, I had no idea how to do any of that stuff, and I was like searching to try and figure it out. It's like, you know, help someone out. You know, a beginner player, they're trying to figure out how to do like a cool like whammy trick or like a pick scrape or whatever it may be, you know.
Help them through an aha moment.
Exactly.
That's
you know,
cool. Like you turn the light bulb on. You're
exactly.
Like,
kind of like education in a comedic way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
That's cool, man. Thanks so much for sharing all that. That's really it's inspiring to me to hear your story too, because you know, we don't know each other that well. I mean,
sure.
we've only hung out a very few times, and so I'm on the other side of just like kind of being a fan too, you know. And you've brightened my day more than 10 times, you know. It's my old guitar player that it's still in Seattle. We were in this band called Only Human for years, and it's funny because I went to visit him earlier this year. It was just in Seattle for 2 days for a Pearl Jam thing, and I went to go kick it at his house, and we're like old school homies from high school, and like
sure.
And he's like, dude, he's like, so we like start trading links. He's like, have you seen this? Have you seen that? And like he's got the YouTube pulled up, like, and we're just like, oh, dude, you gotta check this out. Hold one second. And like one of the first things out of his mouth before we ever talked about like much, he was like, you gotta check out this guy Jared Dines.
That's crazy.
And I was like,
that's
man,
crazy.
That's so cool, because like
that's crazy.
I've met Jared a few times. He's a cool guy. Like, and like he lives like in Washington or whatever, you know, and similar, he's in Shoreline somewhere. Or something
okay, that's where Tony lives. Yeah, my manager.
Yeah, okay. He's in Shoreline. I used to live in Shoreline. He's in actually Capitol Hills where he's.
Okay, gotcha.
But yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's just cool to hear the story and hear the humility in your like where you come from, man. That's like awesome. So
thank you.
Appreciate that.
Well, yeah, dude.
The other part of this is I'm a fan of the underdog. So like if you've got any like underdog like musicians or bands that you think maybe aren't that well known, or you just should be more well known, like maybe tell us about one or two.
All right. Well, there's a band on this tour actually that are doing really well. They're called Avoid.
The Void.
Avoid.
Oh, Avoid.
Yeah, just one word. Avoid.
Got it. Okay.
They're really good. They've been doing it for a few years now, and we're on tour with them right now, and they're killing it. They're like a metalcore, like kind of like melodic metalcore, but they're really energetic. They're really cool dudes. Definitely check them out. My best friend Austin Dickey, he's in a band called For the Likes of You.
Okay.
And they're really, really cool. They've been hustling for 5 years, 6 years. Both those bands aren't very well known. I feel like they deserve a little more recognition because they've done so many tours and they've put out a lot of music and their hearts are in it. And I've personally gotten to know all those dudes in both those bands, and I support them from a music standpoint and also a personal standpoint. They're doing it for the right reason. You know, like, you can listen to a band and you can like their music, but if sometimes you get to know like a person and it's like, oh, like I don't know, you're kind of just trying to do this to get some clout or something, you
Right.
know, or you're not really into this. But these guys are into it, so I definitely give those guys a shout out. Avoid and For the Likes of You. They're really good bands. If you like heavier music, they're super solid.
Cool.
So yeah.
Any spotlights for what you're listening to right now? Like any favorites, big or small bands?
Oh man, I've been listening to a lot of stuff.
You listen to other genres and
I listen to everything, man.
Yeah.
Everything except country. And I know I get shit for that,
That's
but
it.
I grew up in the country, and all my friends listened to country, and it was like the big mud and truck, you know, chew spitting redneck kind of guys.
yeah.
So I kind of just got like really sick of it. But yeah, I listen to
hear that.
anything from like deathcore to classical music, and
You got any favorite hip hop or anything? Or like,
yeah, I mean, Post Malone. He's a buddy of mine. He's really good.
sick.
I'm really digging Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, I'm a fan of him.
He's
too.
super good. Actually, Tyler the Creator was on one of my top listened to Spotify artists
Really?
of the year. Was Tyler the Creator? Yeah.
That last record that just came out.
Yeah,
Was
Flower Boy.
Flower Boy, yeah.
It was a super solid record.
Sure was.
There's everything, man. Like old school nostalgia stuff, The Killers, The Used, you know, Taking Back Sunday, all that stuff, obviously. Just like metal stuff, like Varials, a lot of different bands. It's all over the place, man.
No, that's cool.
It's all over the place.
I appreciate you sharing some of that.
But yeah, I try and have a wide understanding of music, and because I feel like, you know, it's like I was saying earlier, music is so vast. There's such a variety to music, and I think it's really important not to pigeonhole yourself into one specific style, one specific genre. I think you can find appreciation in all styles if you're looking in the right place.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because I would just say that good music is good music.
Yeah.
You know, like, but you know, of course that is subjective and relative to what you're up to. But once you start becoming a connoisseur of players, a connoisseur of people,
Right.
like, oh, like I'm really into good people. I'm
Yeah.
into interesting people that
Yeah.
doing interesting things with their lives.
Right.
I happen to be predisposed to like music and musicians.
Sure.
It's part of my business and everything. But
Yeah.
but then you start find that kind of common thread through things. You're like, oh, like I remember being the same way. I grew up in a hick town, dude.
Yeah.
Like big 4x4s.
Yeah.
I was not that guy. They wanted to beat me up
Yeah.
because I was like into hip hop and metal, and they're like country.
Yeah, my parents
You know,
had a
it's
farm.
like- yeah.
They had a
Well, I
farm. We had
didn't- I-
cows. We had chickens.
I lived in the town with that. I didn't have that, but it's,
Sure, yeah, same thing.
But it's interesting. I was very anti anything that even remotely sounded like that. And then all these years later, as I was going through all these different like guitar players, listening to different things, like getting turned on to Dixie Dregs and like
Yeah.
Chet Atkins and
Yeah.
like people that I just wouldn't have. And then like the OGs at do you remember what's that Guitarville?
Guitarville.
Did you ever go up to Guitarville up in North Shoreline? Like it was.
That might have been before my time.
It's been around a long time. It
Yeah.
ended up moving like further up north into like just north of Shoreline. I'm trying to think of what it would be. It doesn't matter. But I was working there for a little while, and like some of the older dudes that were around me were just like, "Kid, like you should probably check." We had a Chet Atkins guitar. They're like, "You don't know what Chet?" I'm like, "I'm sorry, I don't know."
Yeah.
Like
You don't
like,
know Brooks and Dunn?
Yeah, I'm like,
You don't know
"Oh,
Tim McGraw? What's going on?
you better do your homework."
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah,
You probably drive a Prius.
yeah.
Yeah.
Basically, and you probably don't eat meat either.
Yeah,
you know,
right,
it's like,
yeah.
well, okay, let's get into that. All right. Yeah, but yeah, so I hear that, like, and I started like listening to branching out more around that, because in my earlier years I was kind of like metal purist when I first got into. I was like, oh man, I worked
Sure.
at Tower Records. I ran the metal department. I'm like, metal is so much more interesting than
Sure.
all your other stuff.
Yeah.
And people be like, dude, did you listen to the new Chris Cornell solo record? I'm like, I don't want to listen to it.
Right.
And then, like, all these years later, I'm like, man, I should have been listening to that Chris Cornell
Yeah.
record. That was killer.
In
Like,
retrospect,
what was
yeah.
my problem? Like,
Yeah,
man.
exactly.
But, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, you can find appreciation for every style.
Yeah.
Most every style. Or at least an artist in every style, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah. There's somebody doing something good
Exactly.
in every aspect of life. And
Yeah.
let's focus on the good shit.
Right, exactly. Just stay positive.
Yeah.
Stay positive.
Word. I think, That might be our cue.
Might be our cue.
Yeah.
What the fuck is? Oh shit! I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I forgot you guys were doing that.
Oh wow, Tony.
That's perfect. I thought that's okay. It's like that's the end. Dude, thanks so much for hanging out for this podcast, Jared. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to the show tonight.
Dude, hopefully you play well.
Yeah, well, even if you don't, man, you're doing what you love to do, and I understand that. So you can have an off night if you need to, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, hopefully
personally, I don't think so. No.
Thank you.
Yeah. Players Pick Podcast number 8 with Jared Dines signing off.
Later.
Players Pick Podcast. Picks and perspective with Chris Johnson. Pool table. Painkiller. Palette